All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak Kodash, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. There's an article that, one of the brothers put in the chat, which he be on point with the articles. All right, but it says going into the economic slowdown or economic collapse or recession or whatever you want to call it. Okay, it says here, calls escalate for Trump to end shutdown and trade war amid fears of economic slowdown. All right, it says, oh, look at that. International Monetary Fund, or IMF, warns of fragile growth. It says here the IMF fund cut its economic growth forecast and warned that the risk of a sharper decline in global growth has certainly increased. It says here, Davos, Switzerland, calls are growing louder for President Trump to end the trade war and government shutdown as fresh evidence pours in that business and consumers are losing faith in the global expansion. On Monday, the International Monetary Fund cut its global growth predictions for this year and next year, saying the balance of risks remains skewed to the downside and momentum is past its peak. Okay, and we've been saying this since for years, man. We've been saying this for years, even when it didn't look like it was this was what was gonna happen. But like we said, the closer and closer it gets to this collapse, the more and more people see it, and the more and more people get scared. Okay, now the reason it's affecting the global, all right, the global expansion and all of that, is because these elites, all right, are pushing Trump, all right, to be the head, all right, to force this thing to happen. Okay, and it's gonna affect globally, all right, it's gonna affect the world globally because their new world order, all right, is gonna be a global thing. All right, that RFID chip is not gonna be just something in the US, it's gonna be global. All right, being the new currency and the new so-called way of life, they need to first do away with the old way of life, not just in America but around the world. And what's the best way to do that is to collapse the global economy, all right, or the global markets. It says chief executives ranked a global recession as the number one concern for 2019. Wow. According to a survey of nearly 800 top business leaders around the world released Thursday by the conference board, global trade threats come in second. Even consumers who power the U.S. economy are on edge. Consumer confidence has fallen to the lowest level of Trump's presidency, according to the University of Michigan Consumer Sentimental Survey out Friday. It says after 2 years of solid expansion, the world economy is growing more slowly than expected, and risks are rising. Because what happens when it starts slowing down? You see, they keep using the word growing to for damage control, all right? But really it's not growing, it's slowing down. Growing slowly just means it's slowing down. So what happens when it's growing slowly? Eventually it's gonna stop growing and it's gonna start going reverse, dying. All right? And it's gonna die quick. Okay? Think of it like this. Think of rolling. All right. Let's say like you had enough strength and you rolled a boulder. All right, up a mountain. All right, which that's not the natural way it would go. All right, but it would go at first with momentum. All right, and it would keep going and keep going and keep going till it hits a certain part where it starts slowing down and then it stops and then it comes right back down. Okay, and when it comes down, it comes faster than it went up before. All right, if you can receive it. All right, but it says here, after 2 years of solid expansion, the world economy is growing more slowly than expected, and risks are rising, said Christine Lagarde, managing director of the IMF. Does that mean a global recession is around the corner? No, but the risk of a sharper decline in global growth has certainly increased. See, that is a lie. There is a global recession right around the corner. Okay, but once again, damage control. They wanna sugarcoat it and hush it as best as possible. But the numbers are there. It's obvious. You can't hide it anymore. The mood is noticeably more somber as government, business, and nonprofit leaders from around the world are gathering this week here in Davos, which Trump said he's not going there. All right, Switzerland for the annual World Economic Forum. A year ago, optimism was high as nearly every country was growing, and Trump received a warm welcome from business leaders after a big U.S. tax cut for corporations. Today, growth is decelerating, especially in China and Germany. Trump's tariffs are starting to bite, and the U.S. government is in the midst of the longest ever shutdown, which is starting to have a serious impact on the economy. Trump was supposed to speak in Davos this year, but his entire delegation is staying home because of the shutdown. Um, it says an array of crises are keeping several world leaders away from the annual World Economic Forum in Davos. I think there is anxiety. There are concerns the slowdown could be quite deep, said John Hagel, co-chairman and Deloitte's Center for the Edge. The more we can show some progress and resolution of some trade disputes, that would help. They're desperate. All right, they're desperate, man, because they know that they're not in a good place right now. Okay, and the reason they're so scared is because they know how bad this is gonna be. They know that where America is, if it falls or when it falls, it's going straight down, and it's gonna be bad, man. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Well, America's the biggest. Okay, so imagine how hard it's gonna fall. All right, and not just America, but well, the whole world. It says the IMF is the latest institution to scale back its growth forecasts, following downward revisions by the Federal Reserve and many investment banks. The IMF now predicts 3.5% growth in 2019 and 3.6% in 2020, slightly down from 3.7% forecast for both years that it put out this fall. As the economy slows, it's easier for it to be knocked off track, many economists say. The IMF urged world leaders, especially Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, to de escalate trade tensions to alleviate that major uncertainty weighing on growth. It's absolutely crucial for us to turn around the momentum, and policy can really help, said Geeta Gopinath, the new head of research at the IMF. On the trade side, it's important to come together to have cooperative solution, or to have a cooperative solution that's permanent and that would be good not just for the U.S. and China but for the global economy. Understand that. Look, the Most High ain't with this place. Them coming together and having a permanent solution. So even if they try to end the trade war, the Lord will do something that'll make things worse than they were before. You know. So it says most forecasters predict a cooling economy in the United States, China, and many other parts of the world this year, but they don't see an outright recession, which is defined as 6 months of negative growth. Still, an uneasiness exists about whether the slowdown will be modest or severe, and we hope it's going to be severe. Trump isn't the only world leader noticeably absent from Davos this year. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Theresa May are also staying home as they deal with crisis. See? So what's happening all around the world, man? You have the yellow vest protest there in France. You have the whole Brexit thing going on in the UK and all that. Oh man. So it says a reminder of how tenuous geopolitics are in many parts of the world. The IMF made its biggest cuts to growth for Germany, France, Russia, and Mexico, citing trade tensions and new government policies such as Germany's stricter auto exhaust regulations as headwinds for growth. The U.S. was supposed to be a bedrock for the global economy this year as hiring and confidence remain strong heading into the year, but the shutdown is starting to shake sentiment. So notice how it's not only affecting the inside, but it's affecting the outside. Okay, it's affecting countries and the global economy, but it's also affecting the American economy and the consumers. IMF warned that a protracted government shutdown would be a sharp drag on U.S. growth. The Federal Reserve and many others have made similar warnings. What's concerning for many executives about the shutdown is that Trump appears unwilling to make necessary compromises. Oh boy. It says, if you want to be a superpower in the world, and the U.S. still is, you have to engage with people," said Hans Paul Berkner, chair of Boston Consulting Group. He warned that everybody will be a bit more careful until the shutdown and trade disputes are resolved. Well, how do you know they're going to be resolved? They just might not. The IMF forecasts the United States will grow at 2.5% this year and 1.8% next year. These predictions are unchanged from what the IMF said in October, but they represent a noticeably decline from about 3% growth last year. And there was a certain part in here, all right. Um, well, I'm basically almost at the end, so I'll just finish it. All right, it says consumer spending drives the bulk of U.S. growth, but the shutdown, stock market turmoil, and trade are beginning to weigh on people's perceptions of the economy, because they're trying to portray the economy that is still good and is strong, but it's not. And people are seeing that because they're like, well, why are you telling us the economy is good? But we're seeing the negative effects of it, you know? The sharp fall in the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index has nearly erased the big gains seen after Trump's election in 2016. Executives are counting on U.S. consumers to keep spending, but they also worry that Trump's tariffs will force them to raise prices and give American families another reason to scale back on expenditures. Now, not only that, but they're raising prices, but you got people that aren't even getting paid. you know? You got people that aren't even getting paid. They're worried about necessities, man. Okay? But some people are having it's getting so bad that some people are not even getting those. All right? So these FEMA camps, oh, they're gonna be a big, big thing, man. A lot of people are gonna run up in those FEMA camps. Okay? Uncertainty is wearing on business leaders. Trump has put tariffs on 12% of all U.S. imports and has threatened to put taxes on all Chinese imports, a major escalation that is hanging out there even as the U.S. and China resume trade talks. If there's a threat of doubling or tripling tariffs or another country getting slapped with tariffs, that kind of uncertainty in the macroeconomy really paralyzes executives, said Greg Portell, global lead partner at A.T. Kearney. There is no way they can position their companies in that kind of uncertain environment. Few at Davos are willing to openly say they fear a recession, and they are encouraged by the rebound in markets. But many acknowledge that there's a problem where people could talk themselves into a recession by scaling back spending even before there's a deep downturn. Now here's the part here. It says, when you're growing at 3%, you need a big shock to hurt the economy. When you're down to 1.5 or 2% growth, all it takes is a little shock, said Nariman Baravesh, chief economist at IHS Market. Okay, and that's a key important thing right there, man. Okay, all it takes is a little shock. Okay, that's all it takes, man. And right now you have a whole lot of little shocks that are being prepared to create a big shock. Okay, so just hey, man, just for those of you who still think this is a joke, man, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, because you have things that are happening worldwide, man. You have things that are happening on all different avenues. Okay, the Most High is showing it. He's is blatant. Is plain out there that we are in the end times. Okay, we are in the last days, man, and all hell is about to break loose. Okay, don't come looking for us, man, because we're not gonna have any answers for you then. Okay, but I hope this was edifying unto the elect. Once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai and Shalom.